Hello and welcome to Key Art Stusio Cakes. I'm Larissa Volnitskaia, and today I'm going to show you how to add a very quick and elegant touch to your cakes with ribbon roses. They are very easy to make and don't need to be made in advance, so you can use them immediately after making. I'll demonstrate two different types of ribbon roses and share two different methods of folding them. So practice both and choose the one that works best for you. When choosing the medium for your ribbon roses, please remember that stronger sugar paste can be rolled out thinner, which means that the ribbon you make will look more like a real fabric and produce a more delicate looking ribbon rose. You may use fondant, gum paste, a mix of fondant and gum paste, and even modeling chocolate, also known as candy clay. For this video, I'm going to be using gum paste because it produces very thin and strong ribbon. I begin kneading my gum paste and adding gel paste food color into it. When coloring and wearing gloves, it is helpful to take them off once most of the color was mixed in, because the color which is collected on the gloves may produce tiny crusty bits of color which may transfer into your paste and stain it. I continue kneading my gum paste until all color has been incorporated and evenly distributed. If you decide to use fondant, you may want to mix a bit of Tylose or any other gum powder into it to make it stronger. Just remember not to add it at the same time as you are adding your color, as this may also result in darker bits of color incorporated into your paste. To prevent sugar paste from sticking to my wooden rolling pin, I season it with a little drop of vegetable shortening. I also rub a drop of shortening onto my hands. I try using as little cornstarch as possible while handling my paste, because it makes sugar paste surface dry sooner and may result in surface cracks forming while shaping and molding pieces later. I continue rolling out my sugar paste ribbon. Again, I do use some cornstarch under my paste to make it slide on the table surface, which helps thinning and stretching it, but no more than it really is necessary. Once I thinned out my paste enough, I am passing it through pasta machine, which will even out the thickness of it and make it uniform. Pasta machine is a wonderful cake decorating tool, very helpful especially when you need to produce multiple sugar paste ribbons of controlled and consistent thickness. For this cut edge ribbon rose, I would need a random width and length strip of sugar paste. Not too thin, as we will need our rose to have some volume and body. So I will pass it only 2 times through the rollers, making the distance between them smaller every time I pass the paste. For this particular kind of ribbon rose, plain fondant works great, as it does not have to be very thinly rolled. However, adding some thickeners such as Tylose powder or any other gum-based powders makes it easier to handle the paste and helps finished roses to set up quicker and hold shape better. Using a pizza cutter, I'm making a straight cut along the length of the sugar paste strip. It does not have to be perfectly straight, just somewhat consistent in width. Any sugar paste leftovers must be put back into airtight bag. Here is the first method of folding a ribbon rose, the easy one. To start any ribbon rose, you will need a rosebud at the base. Simply fold your ribbon 2 times to turn it into a cone, once at 90 degrees and then again right in half. Now we will start making equally spaced pleats along the bottom line of the ribbon, leaving about 2 inches of it at the end untouched. The distance between those pleats will determine how tight or open our finished rose will be. The smaller the distance between the pleats and the longer your fondant ribbon is, the more full and open your ribbon rose is going to be. Just make sure that all the pleats are set up in same direction. Now fold in the free end at 90 degrees and begin rolling up the rose. This top edge will now become our rolling guide. Starting at the rose bud side of the pleated ribbon, begin rolling it up, pressing firmly at the base. Watch for the top line of the roll to be level at all times. This is very important. Otherwise, your rose may end up looking like a pine cone. Once finished rolling, tuck the folded end of the ribbon in and press firmly at the rose base, squeezing and thinning down the bottom part until you can pinch it off and remove. You may now pick up your rose and start opening it up slowly. Once you like the way it looks, you may place it directly on the cake or set aside to set up a bit. Ribbon roses are best to be made fresh and arranged on the cake while they are still soft and pliable. I will roll out more gum paste and make another one. Same style and technique, but with more narrow ribbon and more pleats at the base to make it more open than the first one. So again, I pass my gum paste twice through pasta machine to obtain medium thickness for my ribbon. If you don't have the machine, just use your rolling pin. I lay the piece flat on the table and make straight cut along the top edge, and then another one along the bottom line to narrow down my ribbon. And start the rose. I make 90-degree fold at the beginning of the ribbon, then fold it in half to form 45-degree angle, and start pinching with equal intervals along the bottom line. As I make my pinches, I feed the free end of the ribbon towards the last pleat. I then prop my pleats so that they're facing same direction. Make another 90-degree fold at the end and begin rolling up the rose, watching for the top edge to remain level. Don't forget to press firmly at the base as you are rolling up your rose. Finished rolling up, squeeze sugar paste at the bottom and pinch the piece off. You are now ready to open up your rose and add it to your cake or flower arrangement. For this rose, we will need to make a ribbon 2 times wider than we made before, because we're going to be folding it in half. We also need to roll out the paste much thinner, because the thinner you can roll it out, the more delicate and lifelike would be our ribbon rose. I'm passing my ribbon 4 times through the pasta machine to make it look more like a real fabric. To start this ribbon rose, I'm folding my gum paste ribbon in half lengthwise. Please be careful not to flatten the folded edge, as we need it to remain puffy. This will give our rose some volume. Using the same method as before, I'm folding and rolling up my ribbon rose. Starting with the rosebud, then making equally spaced pleats. Be very careful not to flatten the folded edge as you are pinching and making the pleats. It has to remain puffy. closing at the end and rolling it up. Just don't forget to maintain the puffy edge level as you're rolling it up. You really have to roll tight and press firmly at the base. Once finished rolling up, hold it carefully in the palm of your hand so that the middle part of the roll doesn't get squeezed out as you're pressing and pinching at the rose base. Pinch off the excess paste and start opening up the rose. Move your fingers from the outer layers of ribbon to the middle of the rosebud. Try being very careful not to leave any marks with your fingernails as you are doing this. You may help yourself with a soft bristled brush, inserting it between the folds and carefully moving and separating them. There it is, ready to be placed on the cake or into your composition. Or leave it to set up and harden the way you like it. Now that you're familiar with an easy method of rolling up the roses, I'll show you a quicker one. I begin as usual by folding my ribbon in half and leaving the folded edge unflattened. Now in my hands I quickly make the rosebud and start rolling up the ribbon, pinching, squeezing at the base, and turning the bud as I go. Fold, press, turn. Fold, press, turn. That's the pattern. Watch for the top edge to remain level as you're rolling it up. Otherwise, you may squeeze out the middle too far out and turn your rose into a pine cone. Tuck the free end in. Hold the bud upside down in the palm of your hand and pinch off the excess at the base to finish up your rose. Hand-rolled ribbon roses usually turn out much more open and puffy than those rolled up on a table. It is much easier to control how tight or open the rose will be because you see the result as you are making it and can easily adjust on the fly. So please make sure you try both rolling up methods, as each one has its own advantages. While the roses remain freshly made, we can highlight all their beautiful curves and folds and make them shimmer slightly, just like a real satin. I'm using white luster dust, which is the same thing as pearl dust, and we'll be applying it to the freshly made roses using a very puffy soft art brush. You may also use a makeup blush applicator brush if it is more accessible to you. One thing to remember: successful dry dusting with pearl dust is only possible when your paste is still fresh. Once the object that you have created had a chance to be exposed to air for more than 10 minutes or so, depending on your room humidity, the surface of sugar paste begins to dry out and luster dust does not stick to it well anymore. I continue polishing the roses with pearl dust, blowing out the excess dust out from the deep folds if it collects there. As you may notice, those ones that were made first are accepting less of the pearl dust and therefore look duller. The shimmer on the freshly made rose, however, is much more prominent. Done with that, and I can put the pearl dust aside for now.